join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Owen, present. Heller, present. Lays,
Present.
Lee,
Present.
Childers, Sullivan,
Here.
McGrath. Here.
Okay, changing the agenda, we're not doing Jewel 7's best because of the weather. And next item 3 is.
But just for the record, they are still best.
They're still best, they're just not going to be honored.
Recognize them in February.
Yeah.
We'll do a double, yeah.
Okay, next up, public comments, superintendent's award, item,
We're putting that off until February.
put
as
that
well.
off until February. Okay, updates from board members. Done.
I got to 2 of the concerts. I would have done 3, however, they didn't space them properly for me. So I got to East and West, sorry, South, and I was at South, so I didn't get to see. Fabulous, I mean, just outstanding. It's such a pleasure to see our kids do so well. I thank you and I congratulate you. Great job. And next year, kindly, so I can get 3, not on the same day though. It's hard to sit.
Any other board member comments? If not, policy committee meeting update?
We have some policies that we are going to we're bringing here for first reading, and we'll go over those.
Okay. Next, item 4, monthly finance report. Mary?
In your board packet is the November financials. November is 42% of the year completed, and as you can see on both the revenue and expenditure side, we are tracking where we would anticipate being for this portion of the year. The Health Life Safety Fund, as I reported last month, is slightly over because we elected to do more of the doors that were on the Health Life Safety report this year. But it's kind of a good thing because we can take advantage of some of the energy savings on these very cold days. Also, as part of the November financial report is the annual PTAB updated information, which shows that we have outstanding refunds of over $2.8 million. We've settled refunds of over $3 million, and we've, on those $3 million, been able to preserve over $2 million in terms of revenue from settlement agreements and our work with Forensic. Also included are the expenditures for our legal fees and our appraisals. Our appraisals are up this year as we feel the need to present more evidence because of some of the reductions that are being requested. I'll entertain any questions on either the PTAB information or the November financials.
Any questions? Okay, thank you, Mary. Next up is the Illinois State Scholars, Bart.
Right. There's 2 reports actually we're bringing to you under instructional services. The first is the Illinois State Scholars, and you have a listing there of the scholars for our 3 high schools and a 6-year summary of those scholars. Those determinations, as we discussed during the Education Committee meeting, are based primarily on kind of a combination of high stakes data and GPAs that are reported by the end of the junior year. And the state of Illinois reports out the top 10% of all of its seniors from its 773 high schools. So you see our stats there for that particular report. The second report that you have is our Explore report, and I'm going to direct you really to the first 2 pages. It is a very lengthy report with lots of statistical charts and data that Don has pulled together. Again, I think he does excellent work there. But remember that this report is talking to us about our graduating class of 2017 and telling us what they're coming in looking like this first semester. So the questions that are identified on these first 2 pages are really giving us the important snapshot. And I suppose the second bolded question there is the important one. How does this class of of 2017 compared to our previous classes. The two takeaways there that Don has discovered in his data analysis is that our Maine East current freshman class has a significantly lower set of scores than the previous 3 classes in English assessment. And at Maine West, that same cohort of freshmen scored higher significantly than the 3 previous classes on the math assessment. Other than that, across the board, things are pretty much as they have been. So we know from some of the discussion during the education committee, the various interventions that the buildings are working on, they're going to take this data into account and look specifically at how they can work with this freshman class students that they have. The data does continue to point out that we have certain gaps, achievement gaps, in certain subject areas related to our ethnic groups, our gender groups, our free and reduced lunch, LEP. These have continued, and we continue to address them with some of our interventions. The other thing that I'd like to point out is that this is the first of the EPAS sequence of tests, the Explore test is, and we normally do plan sophomore year, and ACT is junior year. This could be the last year, though, that we have Explore in this position, because ACT has only committed to this year to giving the Explore test. So as we see what the resolution is on the PARCC assessment, we may have to make some decisions about whether we continue to use Explore, or the state continues to support Explore, or whether we go to another baseline test for the future. So stay tuned as we see what happens to our EPAS growth analysis. Any questions on either of these two reports?
Thank you, Barbara. Next up is policies and procedures first reading. Brett, can you take us through the policies and the changes that are in first reading?
Sure. We actually have 9 different policies to bring to your attention today as a result of just scouring through our policies and taking a look at them as we get changes to the state law, changes in the recommended policies by the Illinois Association of School Boards, and just our own internal review. So the first one, if you'd like me to go through each one of them, I'm not quite sure how you want me to approach this. Just real quickly, each one?
Quickly for each one.
Sure.
And we'll take questions at the end of each
Okay.
policy, so.
Certainly. So the first one, 1600, these changes are required as a direct result of Senate Bill 7. So along with Senate Bill 7 came requirements of board members that they be trained, and so the last time this was revised, I was a senior in college, so I thought it would probably be a good idea to update this one. So,
And I think that was long ago.
it was a long time ago, unfortunately. So, this is actually the recommended policy by press, and it's the most updated version that takes into account all of the Senate Bill 7 requirements for the training and orientation.
Okay. Any questions?
Questions on 1600? Okay, the next one, the ethics policy, that is a very minor revision, simply because the Illinois Association of School Boards has now inserted language in their model policy, which is pretty much identical to ours, but they defined what gift is, and they've expanded what a prohibited source is. So really, the only change that you'll see is on the, looks like the 3rd page, where the bold and underlined language, where it talks about the definition of what a gift really is. So this is an existing policy that just has a very minor update to it.
Okay.
It does make it more clear for board members.
So not only board members, but also the employees, the staff.
Absolutely, absolutely, yes. Okay, the next one, 6300, is on student records, and in response to the Illinois Student Records Act, this one needed to be have wholesale changes to it. And so what you can see here is we have, we're recommending that the entire previous policy be replaced with the recommended policy from Crest.
Any questions?
Okay, the next one is on tardiness. And actually, what we can do is talk about 6429 and 6430 in tandem. Again, these were put into place in 1988 and 89. And since then, we now have period by period electronic attendance. And so back in 88 and 89, we took attendance once, for the school purposes during homeroom. Well, now we do it electronically by period, so there's no reason to have two separate policies, one that is tardiness to class and one that's tardiness to school. So we're revising the tardiness to class one to just be plain old tardiness, and that encompasses our current practices, and we're recommending that the tardiness to school one, it's obsolete. We'll just totally strike it. Okay, the next one on, the old policy was named harassing staff members or hazing and or harassing students. We're recommending that this be changed to bullying, intimidation, hazing, and harassment. And this was one that the policy committee spent quite a bit of time on, and we've taken pieces from the press policy, and basically what we've done is to try to be consistent. We've defined all 3 or 4 of those domains: bullying, intimidation, hazing, and harassment. And so this language represents the suggestions from the policy committee members from our last meeting. And this is also being put into place just to be, as you can see, our previous policy was 1 sentence long. This is a lot more thorough, and it also is more in line with the suggestions from the independent investigators from last year.
I do have one question / comment on this, and that is that it doesn't say that it includes cyber type activities. It doesn't preclude them, but you think we might tweak it a little bit to make it clear that this is not just the in-person kind of bullying, but we don't want any kind of activities that might take place by electronic means.
Maybe in the 3rd paragraph, bullying, including cyberbullying, something like that.
Still intimidation, harassment, all of them should all have, I think all of them can take place electronically today, and
Sure.
probably much easier for the perpetrator. It's easy to hit send and, really,
Much
That is
more
also-
extremely exciting.
That is also covered in our acceptable use policy as well, in where it does talk about appropriate use of technology.
does that appropriate use of technology apply in school, out of school? home?
Anything that crosses over into the school environment is covered.
Maybe in 2, in the 2nd paragraph, where it says the district will not tolerate harassing, intimidating conduct, hazing, or bullying, whether physical or visual, including but not limited to cyber, something like that.
Yeah,
That would be the good.
yeah, I'd like to make it clear,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we all know a lot of bullying takes place.
Yes,
harassment
that
takes
is
place.
increasing most of it, actually, a lot of it is right there.
Well, that's a good suggestion. We can, like I said, this is the first reading, so we can have a revised version available for everybody for the 2nd reading. Any other questions on 6438?
Have we getting consultation with our lawyers, legal?
Yes, as a matter of fact, this is one that was recommended by the legal counsel during the independent investigation from last year.
And 3 or 4 members are lawyers, so we are in good hands, but just to make sure.
The next one is on the extracurricular activities code of conduct. This is what many people, often hear talked about as the 24/7 policy. And so this is one where what I noticed is that while we have the policy that talks about the extracurricular code. We don't actually have the procedures spelled out in the board policy manual. And so what you'll see here is we've revised the policy, but then you'll see in the following pages, we just basically copied our actual code, and that is now what's consisting of the procedures, because that's really what it is. And so the nice thing about this is, if a parent wants to go find our extracurricular code of conduct, they can actually now find it in the board policy manual instead of, they can find it on all the schools' websites as well, or in the student's handbook, but a lot of them, their first inclination is to check the board policy, and I know we had an issue with that, and so this will help rectify that.
So right now, our current system on the extracurricular code of conduct, the 24/7, how do the students get notified of it?
Well, I can tell you a couple things, but I think the principal can be a little bit more specific.
Because I know in 64, that first week that Andy and Maddie are at school, they come home with that handbook that's 64 pages long, and within 24 hours, you have to tear out that last page, signing it, and the student has to sign it and return it back, and their homeroom teacher gets it.
And we have the same thing.
So same thing here.
Yes.
Parents.
And so if the student or the parent doesn't sign it, you guys know that within 24, 48 hours, and you're sending another one home.
We have not had parent signature.
Right.
Also,
Student
student
signatures.
And it's on our website, it's in the
Okay.
parent handbooks.
And then I think also at the beginning of each season, at the preseason meetings, the athletic directors and the coaches review that with their teams and the parents at those evening meetings. Okay, any other questions on 6443?
Just one quick question on the definition of terms, when we talk about prohibited substances. I know at the meeting it came up that we should include electronic cigarettes. I see here it also has nicotine containing skin patches, chewing gum, and lozenges. Is that something that we took out of, do you know if that was in press or? So this is, if some kid's trying to quit smoking, we're making those tools prohibited substances, is that what we want to do?
Well, it's over-the-counter ones, so if most likely if a student is trying to cease, an addiction of that nature, they would probably have a prescription or be under treatment. So this prevents the students from just going in and buying over-the-counter,
Okay,
nicotine.
over the counter, it's all over the counter.
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, let's see, the next one is teen dating violence policy. This is a policy that is now required by law, and the State Board of Education did not put an implementation date on this. However, the policy committee looked at a sample during one meeting and then decided we would wait for the model policy to come out from the Illinois Association of School Boards, and that's what this is, with some minor tweaking to make it specific to Maine 207. And so, their policy doesn't talk about a complaint manager per se, but we have one. So, it does recommend having what's called a dating violence response team. We have these types of crisis teams in place already, so this really isn't gonna be a huge, major change for the schools. But this will be a brand new policy in response to state law. Okay. The next one, again, it's just outdated language, from 1988. The use of physical force to control students. Not politically correct to use that, so the new terminology is isolated timeout and physical restraint. And so this policy is simply being updated to keep in line with current standards in working with students who may necessitate some type of isolated timeout or physical restraint.
Any questions? Thank you. Next item is monthly update of FOIA requests.
To this month, both processed.
Thank you. Motion on the, item 8, the consent agenda.
So moved.
Sullivan. Howard. Questions, comments?
Lees,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Owen,
Aye.
Heller, Sullivan,
Aye.
McGrath.
Aye. Okay, item 9, we have policies and procedures, second reading.
I'll move all policies A through E.
Okay. Are there any,
A through E. Approval
D.
and adoption of policies A through D.
okay, I move to the second.
Second.
Yeah, it's tricky.
You made the letters, so you don't have trouble with that.
Are any questions, comments, or discussions on the policies? This is the second reading for all of them.
Other than to thank Greg for the incredible amount of work he puts into all of his policy work.
Well, these particular policies were from Hank and Barb, so I'm gonna let them have the
I
judgment.
take that back. Barb, thank you very much. And Hank, thank you. In my lifetime, I have anything nice to say about Mr. Deeds, I think.
Because usually someone else did it, so.
All right, if there are no questions or comments, Judy, could you roll?
Sullivan,
Aye.
Owen. Aye. Lees. Heller. Lee.
Aye.
McGrath.
Aye. Okay, item 10, approval of bids and awarding of contracts.
So moved.
Moved. Donna? Eric, okay. Mary, you wanna give a
Yeah,
short update?
both East and South use Justin's for their yearbooks, and they would both like to enter into a renewal agreement for 3 additional years for the 15, 16, and 17 school years. East yearbook, even though it's black and white and less pages, costs a little more per copy because they only make 800 copies compared to South, where they're producing over 2,100 copies of the yearbook. Both schools have expressed satisfaction with their companies and desire to move forward and maintain those companies. Maine West uses Herb Jones, and they are under contract until 2015. So that's why West is not included in this.
Would it not be cheaper if we had all 3 schools together to send the packages out?
It wouldn't be cheaper because they customize the yearbook based on your quantity and your color copies. So Herb Jones has a comparable price in terms of the yearbook, and they just have established relationships with the companies, knowing what they want and what to do. So we wouldn't receive a price differential.
Okay.
And this is one where we kind of give leeway to the school because we're not using district dollars to purchase this. It's the students that are buying these books.
The Justin's are the one who's doing all the designs and layout of the yearbook.
They work with the yearbook staff to do that,
So we do have our own yearbook staff.
comprised of a sponsor and then students.
Sure. Just want to add, I see that there's a total contract prices and so on, and that's great to see that the continuation, doing a business with the same company, is doing a great job. But I just don't see that kind of like unit price. I know the cost of the yearbook for like, I guess Maine East is roughly $38.50, and then Maine South is $34.92 or so. But on this agreement or contract, somewhere in the agreement, should we have a little unit price somewhere? Or we just have to figure it out based on?
This is their standard contracts. We can ask them to add a unit price right in, similar to what we do with the price increases in the future.
I think it would be nice to have a kind of unit price indicated somewhere in the agreement. And I know that you guys, it doesn't really make, I guess, big difference, but gross glossy papers, 80 pounds and 100 pounds, don't make a big difference. And you're saying that those are black and white. Sure, it'd be better to use it both the glossy 100-pound papers. it was much cheaper, but nicer, and price will be pretty much the same, could be. So just take a look into that. Because I know Maine East yearbook, we are using glassy 80-pound papers. And then Maine East, we are using glassy 100-pound papers, but it does make a nice, huge differences in quality of the paper. So they might can do the same for the same prices. Just for FYI.
Any other questions about the contract? If not, please take the roll.
Lees, Lee,
Aye.
Owen, Sullivan,
Aye.
Heller, McGrath.
Aye. Item 11, use of facilities, let's take these separately. Item A, YMCA at Maine South.
I'll move 11A.
Fine.
Second.
Donna. We got a little more background information on this.
This year, we had a transition in terms of assistant principal switches, and the YMCA contract was one of the contracts that kind of fell through the cracks. As I talked to the assistant principal for students, we specifically wanted to get some additional information on the YMCA because we had heard conflicting information about paid coaches. And while they do not pay their coaches, they pay a site administrator. So we kind of viewed that now as paid coaches, but because they're in the middle of their season, we're recommending keeping them as a class 2 by waiving their fees so that they have the time to inform their parents and their participants of the increase for next year, because we've informed them that now we'll be charging them fees going forward.
And how did, what fees are we charging other similar?
We are charging River Racers a fee, and is there any, the Sharks do not have paid coaches, and those I think are the only 2 swim programs I'm aware of, guys.
The Sharks are
I only know
leading
River
tower.
Racers.
Are they? Okay. And then those are the only 2 that I'm aware of, is the Sharks and the River Racers. I don't see all the contracts, I only see waiver requests.
That's just for swimming, but they're.
Oh, there are tons of feeder programs, the vast majority of which do not have paid coaches, therefore are not charged fees, therefore they don't come before the board.
And they're considered feeder programs
If they're based on the participation of District 207 students and the recommendation of both the coaches and athletic directors, so they have to be recognized by the school too.
Is there a percentage of the students that participate? Is there a percentage requirement, or the threshold
We
requirement?
have not set threshold
There's
requirements.
IHSA limits.
Okay, what are they, do you know?
It varies by
Because this is
sport.
about 50%, I think it said.
If you'll remember earlier conversations, it actually varies by sport and by level. And so each individual sport has a IHSA cap.
For it to be a feeder program?
No, that's just the numbers. We have number limits that we have to work with, that we can't exceed.
We have not, we viewed it in terms of the coaches, and I think that for swimming in particular, there's not multiple feeder programs. So they would view the school's major swimming program, whether or not they had a higher or lower percentage of participation, if their swim students are the ones participating in the program, they would view it as a feeder.
Now, if they were elementary students, that latter statement wouldn't, but if it were high school kids.
So this year, YMCA, are we waiving their cost of $7,000? And then next year,
Yes.
are we continuing possibly waiving, or we
We
are
are-
charging them, right?
We have indicated to them that based on their responses, that we are viewing them as having paid coaches and therefore would be charging them.
Because we didn't have a chance to inform them
Right.
before their season started.
So for past how many years the YMCA has been utilizing this space in Maine, the South, roughly a couple of years already, or?
I think it's
been a while
been
since it's been a long
a
time.
decade, maybe. It's been a,
So while they're using it, we never had any accidents, right? Or while their kids were swimming and so on?
They still have to get insurance and do all that, so.
Right.
It's just a fee waive, but they still have to have insurance with us on file.
What is the fee per hour that we are charging for a class 3?
A class 3,
Which is what we would be, is that what we would be looking at?
it is either $40 or $50 per hour. Okay, yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah,
That's what they will be?
that is what they would be paying next year. And that is what the waiver is based on.
Then, quick question, class 1, 2, 3, what are the
What are the meanings?
definitions?
One is like a district program or school board. 2 is a feeder program, an elementary district feeder. 3 is a local entity, including feeder programs that have paid coaches, but also local civic, any kind of in-district program. And a classification 4 is an entity outside of the District 207 boundaries.
Is there any difference between not-for-profit and regular for-profit?
Well,
or
that's kind of the
5.336?
differences between 2 and 3 is, but we don't treat all not-for-profits because there are some not-for-profits that can still make a profit. So we don't really treat nonprofits and for-profit companies any differently. They're both in classification 3.
And we do have appropriate insurance.
We never waive insurance.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Janine, could you take the roll, please?
Owen? Aye.
Heller,
Aye.
Sullivan, Lee,
Aye.
Lays, McGrath.
Aye. Next is Excel Edge Maine West. Do I have a motion?
Excel Edge is seeking a waiver modification from the $20 to the $5 per hour. And we kind of held this one until we got financial statements from them, which we viewed to have to come from their accountant, which is why it's on their CPA's letterhead. This is similar to what we have done in the past for those companies that are providing the service to our students.
Is that for exclusively to our students?
Right, they hold, I'm not sure if there's a private school student that's allowed to come in, but this is a program held in our building
Yeah.
for our students and makes it very convenient for them.
Okay, just let me understand, are they asking for a reduction from $20 per hour to $5, or have they been getting this already?
They have gotten it in past years,
$5.
but we only waive for one contract year. So as they enter into a contract for this year, they have to either seek the fee waiver from the board or pay the $20.
So that's a total price of $270, or $350?
$350.
We're going to waive, so we're going to, approve to waive this cost. So even though they are not, again, not-for-profit organization entity, but they are exclusively serving Maine West high school students for the preparation of ACT, so that's a benefit of that towards to our students.
Yes.
So they don't have to
They're
wait
not,
for
they're
it.
not not-for-profit.
And they are not a 501c3.
They are
They are
for-profit.
They are for-profit.
And they show their profit.
Yes.
This particular company and most of the ones we have testing relationships with, they give scholarships back to students, and that's part of our agreement with them too.
And
At
it
the
also,
same time,
I'm sorry, the cost, if we raise the price, the cost would then go to the families. So it helps if we waive this, then kids aren't paying more.
but at the same time, the kids, especially Maine West, they do not have to go other location
Correct.
to take the test like we come to school.
Correct.
Okay, any other questions? Janine, take the roll.
Heller, Lays,
Aye.
Owen,
Aye.
Sullivan, Lee,
Aye.
McGrath.
Aye. Item 12, extension of agreement with Chicago Department of Aviation and the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency. Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Sullivan?
Second.
Wade? Okay. Is Mike here?
Well,
No, I can do it.
Mary,
This
okay.
easement was set to expire on December 31st. They are not done with their sampling, so they are seeking an extension till June 30th of this year. And as they said, that will give them the spring season to Lakeside, which is always nicer to do than in the middle of winter.
Oh, they could do it now.
Dig down, Lakeside.
If they could find some. Okay, are there any questions? Okay, not, take roll, please.
Lee? Owen? Sullivan? Lees? Heller? McGrath?
Item 13 is an intergovernmental agreement for typical reporting between District 207 and the Morton Grove Police Department for reporting of criminal offenses committed by students.
I will move with approach to discussion.
Okay.
Want to explain this?
yes, since we have a facility in Morton Grove, the ARC facility,
Facility.
it's the ARC facility, and we interface with the police there regularly, frequently. We probably have been tardy on doing this and should have done it in former years. We have similar agreements with Park Ridge, with Des Plaines. I think we have one with Niles, in fact. And so this would be similar to those agreements.
This is a reporting of criminal offenses committed by students on our property, not the knowledge of criminal offenses committed off our property. So,
It could be, actually.
Could be.
so if Audrey's aware that a student committed a crime 12 blocks away from the school, she's got a duty to report?
No, this is, well, not necessarily, depends on the situation. This could be the police
No, it's the
informing.
police reporting to
Schools.
us.
It is receptive.
So can a principal explain it to me? Since it's reciprocal? How
Well,
it works?
we alert the police when there's criminal activity on our property.
Yeah.
They in turn let us know when there's crime outside, even outside of our school, that it relates to students within our school. So they find an underage drinking party. They let us know who's
Okay, I understand.
arrested.
Yeah, 24/7, yeah.
24/7.
Yes.
It's probably the most commonly used.
Yes.
And it's especially helpful, we have 5 communities. It's really not cool when it's very inconsistent about the information that comes to us from community to community. So
Okay, so now Mike's area is going to include Morton Grove, unincorporated Cook County, part of the Village of Gulf up there?
No, not at all.
Or Niles?
A little bit Glenview. Glenview.
Plains,
Yeah.
Incorporated,
Okay,
and
so,
unincorporated Cook.
so this is Morton Grove, so we need,
It's very small.
doesn't matter, if it's 2 blocks, it's 2 blocks. I mean, all I'm saying is that if we're going to do it, we're going to do it right. We should make sure we have the reciprocal agreements with all of the corporate structures that touch us, including unincorporated Cook County. So, whose job is it to make a checklist to make sure we get them all?
We'll make it somebody's job.
We'll make it something that will.
Okay.
We'll,
So does this Morton Grove one cover Main East as well?
it theoretically could, Eric, yes, because we certainly have these students within Morton Grove. What really precipitated this was just the amount of interaction we've had in the park over there.
We'll just make sure it's included.
Yeah.
So like you said, so if the main east student got caught on something at Morton Grove, the Morton Grove police will report to
Main
Main
East,
East.
yes.
Police group.
Well, that's the District 207, I think that's
Yeah,
who this is with.
yes,
That's
yes,
the District 207.
yes.
Sean brought a very important issue that we should reach out to every individual city, the coverage area, and that's going to be included.
Do we have Harwood Heights too?
Yes, yeah, that's,
Well, I think they report directly to Don, right? They just-
And she goes over and gives that kid a third lecture.
Rosemont.
Rosemont.
Okay, I'm in
Yeah.
support of this.
Yeah, okay. Any other questions or comments?
Judy, could you roll?
Sullivan,
Aye.
Owen, Blaze,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Heller, McGrath.
Aye. Okay, we are down to calendar items. So we could update this for tomorrow.
Only thing not on there that we've got coming up is a January 13th finance committee. We had to move the January meeting because Mary's not gonna be available. And we've got at least 2 out of 3 of us available for the 13th. Other dates were tough to do, so, moving my phone or, didn't get out of work. But I know it's tough for them at that point in time, since it's been 2 Mondays in a row.
What time?
5 p.m.
We'll also need to schedule a buildings and grounds committee meeting for the week of the 27th. So that's Scott, you and I will.
Okay.
Other than school being closed tomorrow, do you have anything to, communications, do you have any cards for, communications? Okay,
One quick question, how do you reach out to every individual students, the parents that we are closing? What method?
We call their house, we have phone numbers for everybody.
Automatic.
Automatic, we have an automatic dialing system. We also put it up on all the websites, and then I think our system also then links to their email, so we have multiple.
We get a phone call, they get an email, we put it on the emergency weather closings, so it's on this.
Students might miss some things, but this is usually not one of them.
It's really official.
Well, he's probably not on our list for emergency calls. We can add
We
him
can
to our
add, yeah.
list.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're on the list.
And now, although I have to go to
Eric,
7 at the
you
moment.
get a call?
Yeah.
Okay, so we need to add Jen, I'll bet Mary Chavez, we need to add Jen in there.
When we got the call today from 64 from Triton College, my kids were wondering why 207 hadn't called yet.
Put him on the list.
And then Dave's voice came through. Dave, how you feeling there?
Super.
Scratchy, making them a lot of calls today.
Yeah,
You do sound very tired.
little hoarse. It's been a long morning.
all right. Can I have a motion to go into closed session?
What subjects?
For items B, C, D, E, and F.
I will so move to go into closed session for review of closed session minutes, appointment, compensation, performance, discipline, or dismissal of specific employees, probable imminent or pending litigation, E, collective negotiating matters, and setting a price for sale or lease of real property.
Heller,
Aye.
Lee, Blaze,
Aye.
Owen, Sullivan,
Aye.
McGrath.
Aye. We're in closed session, thank you.